Jason Hale wiped the sweat from his brow as he stood at the edge of the ruined crash site. The cold wind from the distant planet whipped through his jacket, but he barely noticed. His eyes scanned the broken pieces of metal and scattered debris, trying to find anything useful. As an engineer assigned to the outpost on this remote moon, Jason was used to working in strange places. But this wreck was different. It looked old, very old. He carefully stepped over a twisted piece of alloy, his boots crunching on the dusty ground. Suddenly, something moved in the shadows near a large broken pod. Jason froze and listened. A small sound, like a soft breath, came from the wreckage. "Hello?" Jason called out gently. "Is someone there?" A small figure stepped out slowly. It was a girl, but not like any human Jason had seen. Her skin was a soft blue color, smooth and glowing faintly in the dim light. Her eyes were wide and bright, filled with fear. She looked no older than 10 years. She held something small close to her chest and looked at Jason with curiosity and worry. Jason lowered his voice, trying to sound calm. "I'm not going to hurt you. Are you lost?" The girl said nothing, but took a tiny step forward. She seemed thin and tired, her clothes torn and dirty. Jason noticed a small device hanging from a chain around her neck, shaped like a star. Jason thought about what he should do. The rules were clear: no contact with alien life unless approved. But he couldn't just leave the girl here to die. Something in her eyes made him want to help. "Come on," Jason said softly, reaching out his hand. "I'll keep you safe." For a moment the girl hesitated, then slowly reached out and took his hand. Her skin was cool and smooth, unlike anything Jason had touched before. She looked up at him, her eyes searching. Jason smiled gently. "What's your name?" She didn't answer. Instead, she pointed toward the ruined pod behind her. Jason followed her gaze and saw a small holographic map flickering faintly. It showed a star system far from this moon. Her home, he guessed. Jason carefully helped her to his shelter, a small but sturdy dome filled with equipment and supplies. He offered her some water and food. The girl took the water eagerly and sipped, slowly, then ate the simple ration bars Jason gave her. Over the next few hours, Jason tried to communicate with her. He drew pictures in the dust, pointed at objects, and said words. The girl watched carefully and repeated some sounds softly, but her language was unlike anything he had heard. Jason gave her a name: Lena. It was a simple name, easy to say. She smiled when he said it and repeated, "Lena." As night fell, Lena curled up on a blanket near the small heater. Jason watched her, feeling a strange connection. He wondered where she came from, how she got lost on this moon, and what dangers she might face if he didn't protect her. Suddenly, a soft beep came from his communicator. It was a message from his team leader. "Jason, status report. Any findings at the crash site?" Jason hesitated. Could he tell them about Lena? Would they understand? Would they try to take her away? He typed back carefully. "No signs of survivors. Just debris." As he sent the message, he looked back at Lena sleeping peacefully. He knew he had made a choice. He would keep her safe no matter what. The next day, Jason and Lena explored the crash site together. She pointed to strange markings on the metal, and Jason took notes. She showed him a small device that looked like a communicator. Jason carefully examined it and realized it was still active, sending a faint signal. Jason's curiosity grew. Who was she? What happened to her people? Why was she alone? As they returned to the shelter, Jason's team warned him. "Jason, don't get involved. The alien laws are strict. This could be dangerous." Jason shook his head. "I can't just leave her out there. She's a child. She needs help." That night, Jason sat beside Lena and told her stories of Earth, of stars and hopes. She listened quietly, her eyes shining with trust. But deep in the dark sky, a distant ship began to move. Someone was searching for Lena. Jason didn't know it yet, but his simple act of kindness had started a chain of events that would change his life and the fate of two worlds forever. The next morning, the light of the alien sun spilled softly over the rocky landscape. Jason woke early, glancing at Lena sleeping quietly under the thin blanket. Her soft blue skin looked peaceful, and for a moment, Jason felt a warmth inside his chest that he had not expected. She was safe. For now. After breakfast, Jason decided to teach Lena more about the small outpost where they stayed. He showed her how to use simple tools, how to drink water from a bottle, and how to warm her hands by the heater. Lena watched everything closely, her bright eyes full of curiosity. Even though they couldn't speak the same language, they found ways to connect. Lena would point at objects and then touch Jason's hand gently. Jason would smile and nod, trying to guess what she meant. Sometimes she hummed soft songs that sounded strange but beautiful. Jason tried to hum back, and Lena's eyes would widen with surprise and happiness. It was as if music was the bridge between their worlds. Jason began to notice more details about Lena. Her skin, smooth and blue, seemed to change slightly with her moods. When she laughed, the color lightened like the morning sky. When she was scared, it darkened like the deep ocean. It was a quiet way of showing feelings. One day, while exploring nearby ruins, Lena suddenly stopped and pointed at a strange symbol carved into a rock. Jason knelt down and traced the lines with his finger. It looked like a star surrounded by circles. Lena nodded quickly, and then pulled out the small device she always wore. She tapped it and a faint hologram appeared, a map of stars, different from the charts Jason knew. His heart beat faster. This was a clue to where she came from. Back at the shelter, Jason studied the map with Lena beside him. She touched one star again and again as if it was very important. Jason wished he could ask her more, but the language barrier was real. Suddenly, his communicator beeped again. It was a message from the outpost commander, more urgent this time. Jason, be advised, unknown ship detected approaching the moon. Exercise caution. Jason looked out the window and saw a distant shape in the sky, sleek, silent, and moving fast. Could it be her people? Was she waiting for them? That night, Jason sat beside Lena. He didn't know how to explain the danger, but he could see worry in her eyes. He reached out and held her small hand, squeezing it gently. For a moment, Lena hesitated, then leaned closer, resting her head on his shoulder. It was a small act, but to Jason it meant everything. She trusted him. The days passed, and the bond between them grew stronger. Jason found himself thinking about Lena more often. He worried about her safety, but also admired her courage. Despite her young age, she had faced so much. Jason's team started to notice changes in him. He was more focused, more protective. Some whispered that he had lost touch with reality, but Jason didn't care. Lena was his responsibility now. One afternoon, while repairing a broken antenna, Jason heard a soft knock at the shelter door. He opened it slowly and saw an alien figure standing there. The woman was tall and elegant, with skin the same soft blue as Lena's, but darker and richer in tone. Her eyes held a deep sadness, but also strength. She wore clothes that shimmered like stars and carried herself with quiet authority. Jason's heart raced. This had to be Lena's mother. The woman spoke in a language Jason did not understand. Lena stood beside him, looking up at the woman with hope and fear. Jason stepped forward and said in his calm voice, "I am Jason. I helped Lena. She is safe." The woman's eyes softened, and she nodded. Then, surprisingly, she spoke a few words in broken English. "Thank you, please, stay, help." Jason understood. This woman needed him, not just for Lena, but for something more. As night fell, the three of them sat around the small heater. The woman, who introduced herself as Queen Nyare, shared images and stories through a translator device. Jason learned that her people were scattered across the stars, hunted by enemies who wanted to destroy their way of life. Lena was their hope, the last link to a future where peace might return. Jason listened carefully. He felt a mix of fear and determination. This was bigger than he had imagined. For the first time, Jason realized he was part of something greater. The lost alien girl was not just a stranger. She was a key to a new beginning. But with the arrival of Queen Nia came danger. The unknown ships were closing in, and Jason knew the outpost would not stay silent much longer. That night, as the cold wind blew outside, Jason vowed to protect Lena and her mother no matter what. They had placed their trust in him, and he would not fail. The stars outside shone quietly, but Jason felt the storm coming. Jason stood outside the shelter, his eyes fixed on the sky. The cold wind brushed against his face as distant stars sparkled above. He could feel it. Something was coming. The air seemed heavier, filled with quiet tension. He glanced back at Lena, who sat close to Queen Nia inside. The bond between them was growing stronger, but now, more than ever, danger was near. Suddenly, a bright light appeared on the horizon. It grew larger and larger until a massive ship descended slowly, landing with a gentle shake that made the ground tremble. Jason watched in awe. The ship was unlike anything he had ever seen. Sleek, shining with colors that shifted like oil, on water and shaped like a giant wing stretching across the sky. The hatch on the ship opened with a soft hiss, and from it stepped several figures. Among them was a tall woman wearing armor that gleamed like silver, her face calm but serious. She walked with purpose, her eyes scanning the area. Jason could see immediately that she was not ordinary. She carried the presence of a leader. As she approached, Lena ran forward, her small hands reaching out. The tall woman caught her gently and hugged her close. Tears glistened in her eyes. This was clearly Lena's mother, the queen Jason had heard about. Jason took a deep breath and stepped forward. "I'm Jason," he said, keeping his voice steady. "I found Lena. She was lost. I promised to keep her safe." The queen looked at him carefully, her gaze sharp, but not unkind. She spoke in a quiet voice, broken but clear. "Thank you, Jason. You saved my daughter." Jason nodded, feeling the weight of her words. He wondered what would happen next. Would she take Lena away? Would he be sent back to his lonely post? But instead, the queen did something unexpected. She dropped to one knee before him. "Please," she said, "stay with us. We need your help. Without you, Lena cannot be safe. You have shown kindness where others have not." Jason was stunned. No one had ever asked him to stay like this. Not his commanders, not his family. He looked down at Lena, who smiled shyly and reached for his hand. The queen stood slowly and turned toward her people. "This human is more than a friend. He is a protector." Jason felt a mixture of pride and fear. He was a simple man from Earth, but now he was part of something bigger. The queen's words echoed in his mind. Could he really help them? Suddenly, alarms sounded inside the queen's ship. Jason looked around and saw her people moving quickly, preparing for something. Outside, the sky was filled with strange ships, dark, fast, and dangerous. "We are not safe here," the queen said. "Our enemies hunt us. We must leave soon." Jason understood. The peaceful days were over. He had helped Lena, but now he would have to protect her and her people from a threat he did not fully understand. Back inside the ship, Jason was shown a room filled with strange technology. Screens displayed star maps and images of battle. The queen explained that their world had been destroyed by war, forcing them to flee and hide. Lena was the last hope of their people, the key to uniting scattered factions and bringing peace. But many did not want that peace. The enemies who chased them wanted to capture Lena and use her power for their own control. Jason felt the responsibility growing heavier. He was no longer just a visitor. He was a guardian. As the queen prepared to leave the moon, Jason was given a choice: return to Earth or stay and help protect Lena and her people. Jason looked at Lena's trusting eyes. He thought of the lonely nights, the quiet stars, and the promise he had made. He made his decision. "I will stay," he said firmly, I will help you." The Queen smiled, a mixture of relief and hope shining in her eyes. Outside, the ships began to lift off. Jason stood beside Lena and Queen Nyare as their ship rose into the sky, ready to face the dangers ahead. The journey was just beginning. The alien ship hummed softly as it glided through the dark space. Jason stood near a large window watching. Distant stars passed by. Lena sat quietly beside him, her small hand in his. Queen Nyare was nearby, speaking softly with her advisors, her face calm but thoughtful. Jason felt like he was inside a new world. The ship's walls glowed with soft light and strange machines blinked and moved around. He had never seen anything like this before. But what interested him most was the story the Queen had begun to tell him. That afternoon, she took Jason to a room filled with screens and holograms. One by one, she showed him images from her home planet, scenes of beauty and peace that had long been lost. Vast forests, shining cities, and people living together in harmony. But then the images changed. War came. Dark ships attacked from the sky, cities burned, and families were forced to flee. Jason saw footage of battles, of hope lost and hard choices made. Queen Nyare's voice was soft but steady as she explained how her people had been scattered across the stars, hunted by enemies who wanted to control or destroy them. Lena's escape pod had been launched during the chaos. She was the youngest survivor. The Queen's people believed Lena held the power to bring their world back together. But without help, that hope would fade. Jason listened carefully. He thought about his own home on Earth, how often people fought and yet hoped for peace. Now in this distant place, he was being asked to protect that hope. As the Queen finished, Jason asked, "Why me? Why not one of your own?" Nyare looked at him, her eyes steady. "Because you see beyond race or power. You see kindness and strength in a way others do not. That is rare." Jason felt a mix of pride and uncertainty. He was just a man with skills and a heart willing to help. Could that be enough? The Queen nodded as if reading his thoughts. "You will need more than courage. You will need knowledge." She handed him a small device that looked like a thin crystal. "This will help you understand our language and technology. Use it well." Jason took the device carefully, feeling its gentle warmth. He turned to Lena, who smiled and touched his arm softly. The connection between them was growing stronger every day. But even as they prepared to move forward, danger lurked nearby. The Queen's advisors warned that enemy forces were tracking their ship, waiting for the right moment to strike. Jason knew the peaceful days were numbered. He began to learn quickly, reading alien scripts, understanding star maps, and studying the ship's defenses. With each lesson, his confidence grew. One evening, as Jason worked late in the control room, Lena came to sit beside him. She looked at the stars outside, then at the glowing device in his hand. Jason smiled. "We'll keep you safe, Lena. Together." She nodded, her eyes shining with hope. Suddenly, the ship shook. Alarms blared, red lights flashing throughout the corridors. Jason jumped to his feet. A warning message appeared on the screen. A group of enemy ships had been detected nearby, moving fast. Queen Nyare entered the room quickly. "They have found us." Jason's heart pounded. He looked at the star-filled sky through the window. The enemy ships were closing in. "We must prepare," the Queen said calmly. "Your help is needed." Jason moved to the control panel, fingers flying over the controls. He activated shields and powered up the ship's engines. The hum grew, louder as the ship prepared to defend itself. The Queen gathered her people. "We fight not just for ourselves, but for all who hope for peace." Jason felt a surge of determination. This was no longer just about helping a lost girl. This was a fight for a future where different worlds could live in harmony. The enemy, ships opened fire, bright beams cutting through space. The Queen's ship dodged and weaved, its shields glowing under the attack. Jason worked tirelessly, adjusting power and directing the crew. Lena stayed close to him, clutching his hand tightly. The battle was fierce but short. Using Jason's quick thinking, the Queen's ship managed to escape the enemy trap and jumped into a safe zone. Breathing heavily, Jason looked at the Queen. "We made it," she nodded. "Because of you." Jason realized then how much he had changed. From a simple engineer on a remote moon to a protector of hope for a lost people. He glanced at Lena, sleeping peacefully now, safe for the moment. The journey ahead would be difficult, but Jason knew one thing: he would not give up. Together they would face whatever came next. The quiet hum of the ship was a strange comfort to Jason now. Days had passed since their narrow escape from the enemy ships, but the weight of what lay ahead pressed heavily on him. He stood in the ship's observation deck watching the stars drift past, thinking about the choices he had made, and the ones still to come. Lena was nearby, drawing strange shapes on a small tablet. Jason had learned these symbols were part of her people's ancient language. She looked up and smiled when he caught her gaze. In that moment, Jason felt a deep bond between them, a bond stronger than words. Queen Nyare entered the room quietly. Her eyes held a mix of respect and worry as she approached Jason. "You have done well, Jason," she said softly. "But the path ahead is not easy." Jason nodded. "I understand. Your people are scattered, hunted, and Lena, she is the key to bringing them together." The Queen's gaze grew distant. "Yes, but many do not want peace. Some fear what Lena represents. They believe power must be taken by force." Jason frowned. "Then what can we do?" Nyare sighed. "We must find allies, those who believe in hope. But trust is hard to earn, especially with outsiders." Jason thought about his own world. Earth. Humans had many problems, yet they could work together when needed. Maybe the same was true here. Over the next days, Jason helped prepare the ship for travel to a hidden space station, an old meeting place where the Queen hoped to find allies. He studied alien technology, learning how to operate the ship's defenses and communications. The crystal device she gave him made learning faster, translating words and symbols into something he could understand. But not everyone on the ship trusted Jason. Some alien soldiers watched him with suspicion, whispering about the human who had suddenly become important. One evening, Jason overheard a conversation between two guards. "Why should we trust him?" one asked. "He is from a different world." The other replied, "The Queen trusts him. That should be enough." Jason felt the sting of doubt but pushed it aside. He had to prove himself. Meanwhile, Lena continued to teach Jason small things about her culture, the meaning behind the symbols, the songs of her people, and the importance of honor and loyalty. She was like a bright light in the dark, reminding him of what they were fighting for. As they neared the space station, the Queen called a meeting with her closest advisors and Jason. "We must be careful," she warned. "Enemies may try to follow us. We cannot afford betrayal." Jason spoke up. "I can help with security. I know how to set traps and alarms." Nyare nodded. "Good. Your skills will be valuable." When the ship docked at the space station, Jason stepped onto the platform with Lena and the Queen. The station was old but still alive, a place where many species gathered, some friendly, some wary. The Queen's voice was calm but strong as she called for a meeting of the factions who might support her cause. Jason watched as leaders from different alien races arrived, each with their own customs and doubts. Some looked at him with curiosity, others with clear suspicion. The meeting was tense. The Queen spoke of peace and unity, but many voices rose in protest. Some wanted to fight, others wanted to stay hidden. Jason felt the weight of their history, the pain and fear that divided them. During a quiet moment, a delegate from a nearby system approached Jason. She was tall with bright green eyes and skin that shimmered like silver. "I have heard of you, human," she said softly. "Your kindness to Lena has moved many. But peace will require more than words." Jason nodded. "I am ready to do whatever it takes." The days passed with talks and plans, but the shadow of danger was always near. Enemy spies tried to infiltrate. The station and tension grew. One night, as Jason was working on the ship's security systems, he heard a sudden noise, a warning signal. Someone was trying to breach the station. Jason rushed to the control room where alarms flashed red. The Queen's soldiers prepared for defense. Jason helped coordinate the response using his knowledge of human tactics and alien technology. Together, they stopped the intruders before serious damage was done. The Queen looked at Jason with gratitude. "You have saved us again." Jason smiled tiredly. "We are stronger together." As the meeting continued, Jason found himself caught between two worlds. On one side was Earth, his home, a place he might never return to. On the other was this new family, these alien people who needed him. He thought about Lena, her small hand in his, and the hope she carried. Jason knew his choice was no longer just about duty. It was about belonging, and he was ready to face whatever the stars had in store. The quiet hum of the ship's engines was a small comfort as it floated through space. Jason sat in the control room, his eyes fixed on the starry sky outside. He felt a mix of hope and worry. The journey had been long and dangerous, but the greatest challenge was yet to come. Queen Nyare stood nearby, watching the distant stars. Her face was calm but serious. "Jason," she said softly, "soon we will reach the border of safe space. Beyond that, enemies wait." Jason nodded. "I understand. We must be ready." Lena sat on the floor, playing quietly with a small device. She looked up and smiled when Jason glanced at her. Her innocence was a reminder of why they fought, for a future where she could grow up safe and free. The Queen gathered her council. "We must decide our next step. Some want to fight, others want to hide, but Lena's presence changes everything." Jason listened as voices rose in debate. Some feared the humans' influence. Others feared the enemies closing in. The Queen's words carried weight, but the fears ran deep. One of the advisors, a stern man with sharp eyes, spoke out. "We cannot trust outsiders. Our people have suffered because of them." Nyare's gaze was steady. "Jason is different. He chose to stand with us." Jason felt the eyes of the room turn to him. It was a moment of truth. "I will do whatever it takes to protect Lena and your people," Jason said firmly. "But I need your trust as well." The room grew silent. Then, slowly, nods of agreement followed. Days later, Jason was called to the ship's bridge. The enemy fleet had been spotted, closing in fast. The Queen's ship would not survive a direct attack. "We must use speed and strategy," Jason advised. "I can help with the defenses, but we need a plan." The Queen nodded. "We will trust your judgment." Together they prepared the ship for battle. Jason worked quickly, strengthening shields and setting traps for enemy fighters. The crew moved with purpose, ready to face what was coming. As the first enemy ships appeared on the scanners, Jason's heart raced. The battle was fierce. Bright beams cut through space, explosions lit the darkness. Jason coordinated the defense using every skill he had. Lena stayed close to the Queen, her small hand in Nyare's. Jason watched them, feeling a fierce protectiveness. The Queen's ship managed to outmaneuver the attackers, slipping through a narrow space between asteroids. Jason's quick thinking had saved them. After the battle, the Queen approached Jason. "You have proven yourself not only to me, but to all." Jason smiled tiredly. "I only want to keep them safe." Nyare looked at him with something like gratitude and something deeper. "There is one more choice you must make." Jason felt a chill. "What choice?" "The path ahead is dangerous. You can return to Earth now, or you can stay and fight with us." Jason thought of the quiet nights alone on the moon, of the warmth he felt when Lena smiled, of the hope in the Queen's eyes. He looked at Lena, sleeping peacefully nearby. She was more than a child, she was a future. Jason took a deep breath. "I choose to stay." The Queen smiled softly, her voice filled with relief. "Then you are one of us." The ship's course changed, heading toward a distant system where new allies awaited. Jason knew the road would be long and hard, but for the first time, He felt he was exactly where he belonged. The ship moved steadily through the vastness of space, stars shining like tiny diamonds against the black canvas. Jason stood on the observation deck looking out at the endless sky. Beside him, Lena held his hand tightly, her soft blue skin warm against his. Queen Yari was nearby, her calm presence a steady comfort. Jason thought back to the moment he found Lena alone and scared on that distant moon. So much had changed since then. What began as a simple act of kindness had grown into a journey that connected worlds and hearts. The space station ahead was quiet but alive. It was a place where refugees, leaders, and dreamers gathered to shape a future from the ruins of the past. The Queen had brought them here to seek peace, to build alliances, and to protect Lena's future. Jason felt the weight of responsibility. He was no longer just a human from Earth. He was a protector, a friend, and a part of this new family. As the ship docked, they were greeted by delegates from many worlds. Some smiled warmly, others watched carefully, their faces marked by years of hardship. The Queen led the way through the station, her grace commanding respect. She introduced Jason and Lena, explaining their story, how a human had helped save her daughter and stood by them in times of danger. Jason felt a mixture of pride and humility. He knew that trust was hard-earned, and peace even harder. Days passed, with meetings, talks, and shared stories. Jason learned about different cultures, hopes, and fears. Lena laughed and played with children from other worlds, her joy lighting up the room. One evening, Jason found himself alone with Queen Nyare. They stood looking out at the stars. "You made a choice," she said softly. "To leave your world behind." Jason nodded. "I did. I found something here I didn't expect." Nyare smiled gently. "A home." Jason looked at her, understanding the depth of her words. It was more than a place. It was belonging. Suddenly, alarms sounded through the station. Jason's heart raced as security personnel rushed past. The peace they were building was fragile. "Threat detected," a voice announced. "Unknown ships approaching." Jason and the Queen exchanged worried glances. Their enemies had found them again, but this time they were ready. Jason quickly moved to the command center, working alongside the station's defenders. Lena stayed safe with trusted friends. The battle was tense but brief. The defenders, united by hope and trust, repelled the attackers. Jason's knowledge and courage made a difference. When the alarms finally stopped, Jason breathed deeply. Around him were people who had chosen peace over fear, unity over division. Later, as he walked with Lena through the quiet halls, she looked up at him with shining eyes. "Thank you," she said softly. Jason smiled. "No, Lena. Thank you." He felt a joy deeper than words. That night, Jason stood beneath the stars once more. He knew the road ahead would have challenges, but he was no longer alone. He was part of a new family, a new home among the stars, and together they would build a future worth fighting for.